Hey y'all, it's Krypton Critics. I'm here to review the film Lucky Number Slevin. Not 7, Slevin. This is a film that came out in 2006. It stars Josh Hartnett, Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman, Ben Kingsley, Lucy Liu, Stanley Tucci, and it even has like a small role from Corey Stoll. But a lot of like big names are attached to this movie. Uh, One of the reasons that I wanted to do a review of this film because I saw other people's reviews, and for the most part, critics, are not the biggest fan of this movie. But I saw like people just regular Joes were giving high reviews, and sometimes when I see that, I'm like, there might be a disconnect. There might be something that something overlooks, or just certain situations where we're presented something first time seeing, we're just so obsessed with the aesthetic or how certain parts of the film are, and we just say, well, that's a bad taste in our mouth, it's automatically bad, there's nothing redeeming about it. And what I want to do with this channel, every time I see a movie, I try to see it in more than one direction. Now, I can say that this is a really good movie. It took me a while to realize it. The first half seems a bit choppy. It's complete chronologically. It is just everywhere, but it does reward you for being attentive and noticing details. Because the whole point of the movie, is this character who's getting back at people that wronged him, and he wants revenge. But the first half doesn't seem that way. Now, even with putting the story aside, how the plot moves, there are certain scenes that seem out of place even after seeing it. Some edits seem a bit too fast. Sometimes the tone is in the right place. Sometimes the acting isn't pristine, but at the same time, when with the acting, Josh Hartnett, who I had not really seen before. The only time I've seen him was I think he was in the first Sin City movie. His performance is more mellowed. There's no ham or like real like extreme menace. Everything's in a slight way. It starts off goofy and then it becomes more serious. And it was great to see not just him but the character like grow in that way. Even though the whole curveball of the movie say, well, it was always like that. He was just playing dumb, and that is it's a risky tactic for a film to do, and it proves to how many people just pushes away offhand, and I would have been the same way if I had only stuck with the first half of the movie. It really does pay off knowing those scenes. Like when I was watching it, the first half seemed like a C+, but I start getting better and better, and I just saw the ending, like, holy shit! What? That's freaking awesome. Now, Josh Hartnett, he plays a character named Slevin Calavra. But in the movie, two gangsters think that he's the character named Nick Fisher. At this point, I'm going to start spoilers. I'm just going to say, before I get to my spoilers, check it out. It has a great twist, really good acting, really intense story when you think about it. Because I'm not joking. The twist is like the whole third act, and it is what makes you want to watch this again and really pick up on those details. Like, this is not a perfect movie, definitely not. No movie is. It's it's nowhere near my favorite movies, but it is one of the best movies that I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. I've never seen a kind of turnout like this. It's kind of like, when you go to school and this kid that seems like he's struggling and, he's maybe hanging out with a bad crowd, but then he does a turnover and before you know it, he's like 10th in the class. I'm just like, whoa, holy shit. I gotta step back. I'm like, I gotta see how everything panned out, and that was always in place. I just didn't realize it. Spoiler time. The Josh Hartnett's character, Slevin, we see him as a kid in the late 70s with his father. His father was betting on horses on a racetrack, and that's part of the aesthetic and kind of like it keeps reappearing in the film. He bets on this horse. He names it Lucky Number Slevin after his son. And he says, well, once his horse wins, I'm going to be able to get you into law school, take you to Harvard when you're an adult. He tells his, I think, around 8, maybe 7-year-old son to just sit in the car. He said, I'll be gone for 15 minutes. He leaves him with a watch. Horse just falls apart on the track, and he just like, oh my god, fuck. And the mob comes to like kill him, and they kill the dad, they kill the mother, but we start off unaware of what happens to the son. At the end of the movie, we find out that this character played by Bruce Willis, Mr. Goodcat, is a hitman, and he was working for these mob bosses. And he basically adopts the little kid, Slevin, and makes him, a killing machine. So in the first part of the movie, we don't know that. We just think that he's kind of like a dumb guy. He keeps getting hit in the nose. He gets robbed. He lives in his apartment complex in New York, and he lives across from a coroner, Lindsay, who's becomes a love interest to him, who's played by Lucy Liu. And I can already hear some of the criticism that someone's gonna say, looking at the screen, is like, oh, you're just gonna be nice in this film because his girlfriend is in it. Like, no. I judge a movie by how the movie is. I don't care who the fuck is in it. If you perform well, if it's a good story, I'm going to commend you on that. Anyway, moving on. But that was something in the movie that felt a little off. She kind of has like a dorkable personality. She's pretty fun, but the relationship starting seemed a little bumpy, like how it was put together, but it did have like they did seem to have a good connection, with how everything unfolded later in the plot in the third act. So everybody thinks that this guy, this dumb guy, is not Slevin. He's Nick Fisher, who is killed by Bruce Willis in the first few minutes. We see this black guy get axed off. We see the Jewish guy get a ball thrown in, like a baseball thrown in his face and killed. We see 2 guys getting poisoned. We find out that all those kills have been done by Bruce Willis and Josh Hartnett's characters. Stanley Tucci plays a detective officer, Bikowski, and he's looking into the relationship between the 2 gangsters that were responsible for the death of Slevin's father from back in the day. And those 2 characters are the boss and the rabbi. The rabbi is played by Ben Kingsley, and Morgan Freeman plays the boss. They have 2 buildings in New York that face each other. Well, kind of an angle, but they face each other, and they're always wondering what the next person is going to do. And they kind of have this theme more explained and like kind of, you know, with some symbolism because they both like playing chess. Now the boss thinks that says that Nick Fisher owes him money, so he gets Nick Fisher, aka Slevin, and he has him brought to his building, and he's like, "Well, you owe me, I think it was like $93,000, or you can kill the rabbi's gay son, aka the fairy." Completely politically correct, obviously, because he blames his because the boss blames the rabbi and his men for his son's death, so he wants an eye for an eye situation. In the movie, we find out that's not true. All these kills are, you know, the scheme of Good Cat and, you know, Slevin working together as, you know, hitmen. Just, you know, it seems so weird in the beginning. He played dumb so well. It's like kind of baffling when I'm thinking back at it. I really want to rewatch this movie and like notice any other details I didn't, because it circumvents and, you know, once again it throws you a curveball. Like it's like, well, you think this is like that and this is like that, but actually, boom, you're wrong, and it's even clever than you, even more clever than you think. You know, Morgan Freeman does, you know, a good job as, you know, intimidating boss, except for the first lines he says. It just, you know, it was hard for me to palate, you know, Morgan Freeman's voice with trying to be threatening. It seems a little weird. Well, you know, Schmo. I was just like, what? Wait, what? Ben Kingsley. Holy crap, man. If he wasn't acting, I don't know what the fuck he'd be doing. But his acting as the rabbi is like, I forgot like several times while watching the movie that was Ben Kingsley, or that was a man that's, you know, Indian. I'm just like, he actually made me think for a few seconds while watching it that he is Israeli American, you know, old guy that is a rabbi. I'm like, holy shit, that's incredibly impressive. He nailed the voice and the mannerisms just to a T. So Slevin, who they still think is Nick Fisher, also gets in trouble with the rabbi because he thinks he owes him money and that he needs to owe it in like 3 days. So he not only does the plan is that Nick Fisher has to kill the rabbi's son, but also owe the rabbi money to circumvent the hatred that was brought upon by the boss, who both of them are responsible in some way for the death of his father and mother from back in 1979. So he, you know, he does kill the rabbi's gay son. He tries to pretend like he wants to go on a date with him, but he just, you know, shoots him out. Homeboy Bruce Willis comes through, and this is the point in the movie where I'm like, yes, that's fucking awesome. It just like he like hears some gangsters in the other wall. They bust through like the Kool-Aid Man, and he just like pop 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 pop, and they just set the shit blaze of fire, and they burn the ferry, and they put a fake Nick Fisher there, and they put the watch that Slevin was wearing which is, I guess, technically Nick Fisher's, and he gives it to him so they'll think that he was being killed. But the problem is, it was supposed to not look like a job, and they made it look like a job. But who the fuck cares? Because they're badasses and they're assassins and they're after these gangsters and they're playing them for dumb. Ooh, just like, god damn. And he gets to have Morgan Freeman's character and Ben Kingsley's character killed the same way that his father was killed. And he has his girlfriend, Lucy Liu, Lindsay, pretend to be killed by wearing squibs and fucking bulletproof vest because she is coroner, and she like ends up talking to Stanley Tucci's officer character, and she looks on charred bodies from Bruce Willis and Josh Hartnett's attack, and she finds the watch and she like starts crying, and you know it's like implied that she thinks that her boyfriend failed and he was the one that was being killed. But you know, thank God, you know, they didn't just kill baby girl, and she had, you know, protection and she had the squibs so to make Bruce Willis think that she was being killed, because previously she didn't know about this job. It wasn't until like the, you know, late or second act or third act that she realized that, and she thought that, you know, Slevin was just a dumb dude from the very beginning, like everybody else was tricked to believe. And while she was doing that, she was trying to put on an investigation to try to find out who this guy is, who that guy is, and try to help out, you know, her soon-to-be boyfriend. And yeah, just now, even ignoring the twist and how awesome that is, there are still some scenes that just seem weird. Like Corey Stoll, he plays like one of the rabbi's men. I think he's also rabbi because he wears, you know, the yarmulke and the sideburns, alongside with this other guy who is just silent, and he's just silent. And yeah, they really brushed those characters to the side after a point. And there was the goons of the boss, who are these two black guys. One's like really beefed up, and he barely has an upper lip. You just see a bunch of teeth, and his overacting was a little bit much. His buddy had a few funny lines, I'm not gonna lie, but it did seem to be out of place. They are killed off, so I guess who cares? A recurring theme from Bruce Willis is the song Kansas City Shuffle. And, you know, I would say part of this is because, you know, that song, you know, has the symbolic nature of self-loathing and arrogance, which, you know, kind of seems like the relationship between Bruce Willis's character, Mr. Goodcat, and Slevin. Slevin is self-loathing. He, you know, he holds this grudge for so long, and you know, it is the whole twist of him being adopted by the guy that was supposed to kill him. You know, we even see him like with a 70s mustache, like driving him, and I think it's a Mustang. And Bruce Willis plays, you know, the role of arrogance because, you know, he thinks that he can do everything and that he's invincible, but at the same time he doesn't understand like what pains something can bring to somebody. And I think the only source that he can understand that is, you know, his, you know, adoptive like kind of son. And it was powerful to know that he decided not to kill the girlfriend later, because they show up, I think it was the airport, same guy where the real Nick Fisher was killed by Bruce Willis's character, and he decides to let Slevin and Lindsay go, and yeah, it was pretty cool. And right after that, they show that big flashback. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of good lines. There's a few weary ones about James Bond, love interest, all that. But slow burn, good payoff, great rewatchability. Yeah, there's a lot of good shot frames. It was weird to see the weird CGI stretch back and forth to the boss's building and the rabbi. But other than that, this is like a really fun, solid movie. You just you if you're watching it for the first time, you just have to wait. It will reward you for paying attention. I would give this movie a B plus. It's really fun. Go see it. It has a lot of great acting. Bruce Willis and Josh Hartnett, Ben Kingsley, Morgan Freeman. They're all badasses in their own way. As far as the Christmas critics, you know I love it.